Welcome back to Cheche, the program where opinion counts on Citizen TV. Kenya's legislature, at least half of it, is renewing its attempts to pull the country out of the Rome Statute. The timing is hardly auspicious. Deputy President William Ruto appears before the court next week and should be in The Hague for just over a month. President Uhuru Kenyatta is then scheduled to make his appearance in November. Well, the leader of the majority in the National Assembly, Honorable Aden Duale, wants to introduce a motion withdrawing Kenya from the ICC. And so the question becomes one of questionable priorities, which you didn't seem to answer too well before we went on break. But the point is that there are Kenyans still looking for justice after the post-election violence. How do you explain your enthusiasm on this matter of withdrawing from the Rome Statute to Kenyans who lost loved ones, lost their property, or survived the violence?
I think the 2008 post-election violence was a very unfortunate event that took place. But of course, if you look at from both sides, what I think positively, maybe it was a wake-up call for us. We got a new constitution, we built institutions. And secondly, I think the government, the last government, had a moral duty to look at the post-election violence victims in terms of resettling them and in terms of making sure that they're back to their normal life. And of course, the judicial system in our country should also have played its role in terms of providing justice to those victims. Last government never did much to the post-election violence victims, and we expect this government in the first 1 year, which was part of its manifesto, the Jubilee government's manifesto was a resettlement of the IDPs in the first year, the first 1 year. And I'm sure that pledge, they must fulfill it. But having said that, you look at history to shape the future. Right. My motion looks at both the scenario under a new constitution and a reformed judiciary that that no any other Kenyan, regardless of his status in society, will be
With respect, you're not answering my question, because I'm asking how you justify the urgency with which you're pursuing this motion to withdraw Kenya from the ICC to post-election violence survivors who, using your own reasoning, a draft IDP policy exists but has not been acted upon. And so where you say that you're correcting the mistake Kenya made in ratifying the ICC statute, you have not gone back to ratify, to correct the mistake of that draft ICC policy not being enacted into law.
Well, I'm telling you, the ICC draft policy mainly talks about the resettlement of the victims.
Resettlement, welfare.
Which I can tell you, the moment the president is done with what he's doing in the coast, the next area he's going to do it, and as per the leadership of the Jubilee, is that he must resettle the remaining IDPs and back to their life. For the element of the justice, which is very, very key, then we have a reformed judicial system, independent one, which will handle. And we need to look at this thing in two different folds.
So the IDPs can wait for their justice, but we have to work harder at the motion. We have to pass it immediately.
The implementation of the IDP policy, as per the resettlement, is a government policy. And I told you... But
it needs to be passed into law.
Yes, the law is there. The law is there.
No, it's a bill. It hasn't been passed into law.
Yes. The gist of that law is basically...
The gist of the bill.
The gist of the bill is to resettle, because we don't want to anticipate IDPs in the future. But the gist of my motion is more of a legislative agenda. The gist of my motion is based on the Article 1 of the Constitution, the sovereignty of this country. So for me as a legislator, as a leader of majority in the legislative house, I decided to initiate a process. The IDP policy document is supposed to come from the Minister for Devolution through the cabinet to Parliament for me to append my signature and introduce to the House for first reading.
So you couldn't introduce, you couldn't call for a special sitting for the draft IDP?
Because
law?
it has not been discussed at the cabinet level. There is a process. Bills go through a process. Kenya law reform have an input. The CIC have an input. Stakeholders have an input. It goes to the cabinet. Once the cabinet adopts a bill, the AG gives Parliament, through my office, a draft bill. It's the Department of Legal in Parliament and my office to sit together. We look at and refine the bill, signs it, and then move it to the Speaker for approval for a publication of that bill.
So your motion on the ICC would not go through all these steps?
My motion of the ICC will not go through the steps because it is being generated, initiated within Parliament. It's for me to generate and publish the bill and then give it to the relevant committee of Parliament, which will be the legal committee, to engage the stakeholders and involve other people for it to come for the second reading and the third reading if a member of Parliament wants to amend my bill.
You have said that your bill is to protect the sovereignty of Kenyans, of the Republic of Kenya.
Absolutely.
Once you pass that bill and it goes through, will Ruto stop and who will stop going to pay so that you protect the sovereignty? How are you going to do it?
Mutagi, I have said it and I want to say it categorically. My motion, my bill, what I'm doing has no consequences, has no effect on the two cases before the ICC.
How is our sovereignty threatened? How is the sovereignty of Kenya threatened by
Absolutely.
ICC?
Sovereignty is not only threatened at the present, it can be threatened in the future. I can even decide to amend the law for to safeguard this sovereignty even in the future.
So at the moment, at the time when we signed this legislation in 1998, our sovereignty was not a significant factor. And how about many other laws that Kenya has submitted to international law
protocols
that also affect our sovereignty? The hypocrisy of this whole notion
You've asked
is
me a
what...
question. You've asked me a question.
Okay.
A very, very
Before
good. David, forget about the 1998 Rome Statute that we appended our signature into and many other international laws. 1998, we had a constitution.
2008.
1998, when we appended our signature, the Rome Statute, we had a constitution. As a country, we decided that this constitution is not good for us. And we reform and...
again, Duale,
no,
sorry, I have to intervene.
Let me finish.
Because
let me finish. I'm coming to you. And we have a new constitution. Secondly,
that constitution preserves the Rome Statute.
Even today, laws as late as last government, international treaties that are signed by last government, if in the opinion of the Kenyan people, through their elected leaders, both in the Senate and in the National Assembly, if they feel, but whether it is an economic treaty, whether it is a legal treaty, if we feel as a country, it is not in the interest of the people of Kenya now and in the future, it is the business of Parliament to amend or to repeal. Let me give you an example. Tanzania joined COMESA at its formation. 5 years down the line, they said, the interest of our people is not there. They pulled out of COMESA. The US in 2002, in 2000, Bill Clinton signed the ICC, but he didn't rectify. When he was leaving power, the advisory opinion he gave to George Bush was that don't sign it for the following reasons.
What is
You've already outlined those.
So why do you think as a country we should stick to a law, an international treaty that we feel will touch on the basic principle of the sovereignty of our nation?
The answer to that, Mr. Duale, is that the ICC is here because of the failure of our own governance structures, our inability to safeguard that sovereignty. But what is sovereignty if the people within it are not safe, they don't enjoy justice, the rule of law? The ICC is here because our systems failed to generate justice. There is no evidence yet that that has changed, even with a reformed judiciary as we speak, because nothing has happened to the fate of the people who suffered the post-election violence in 2008, which you are not addressing. But you have decided that the safety, integrity, and the preservation of the president and the deputy president supersedes all the other issues around the 2008 post-election violence, which is a matter of grave concern, because there are people who are penning, who have suffered injustice, who need justice.
You know, the divide here, David, the divide here is, and in any other motion, like any other bill, my anticipation is that there are those who will be pessimistic and those who will look at this bill from a different angle. And I have nothing against those who want to tie the motion on the bill that I'm introducing to the preservation of the two leaders. I mean,
the one who is doing it so because of your urgency.
No.
If you did it after, you couldn't understand.
No, I'm sure.
But since now you are doing it this urgently,
I'm sure from my experience in Parliament, whether this motion was coming on the 17th or on the 5th or next year, the divergent line will still be there.
Okay.
I mean, but I can tell you for sure is that the way we do a critique of our own constitution, the way you're doing a critique of even the judiciary and the institution that we created. In 2010, we created institutions, independent, reformed. But today, down the line, and I agree with you, the expectation of those institutions to the Kenyan people, we have not yet achieved. Hopefully, and I pray we will achieve one day.
Right. You seem to be failing to convince us here that this is not a demonstration of loyalty, sycophancy, if we want to be extreme. But have you considered, and several of our viewers are pointing this out, that your motion could actually backfire on the president and the deputy president, because they have stated that this is a personal challenge, and they have stated that they will cooperate with the International Criminal Court. And so you seem to be at odds.
One, I think I have a history. History will judge me. I mean, I have never been a sycophant. But again, on the idea of divergent views, I don't mind if people call me sycophant. But on loyalty, yes, we are a coalition.
So this is a demonstration of loyalty?
We are a coalition. I'm a leader of a coalition in Parliament. I will be loyal to the agenda of that coalition. If it is in the interest of the Kenyan people, I will be loyal to the leadership of the coalition, and so be it for me.
Right, so backfiring, your motion backfiring.
But on backfiring, I can tell you those are the divergent views. For me, from where I sit, and where the Jubilee Coalition sit, and where the membership sit, what is there before the ICC is the legal process, particularly at the stage where it has reached, is where both the defense and the prosecution are preparing their witnesses. And from where I sit, and I'm sure from where my motion is coming from, this motion has no bearing. It can have no effect, no consequences. It can have no backlash on that case.
Have you spoken to them about your motion, given that you're the leader of the majority in Parliament? And what have they said to you?
And they have said, and I can tell you both, the comment that was made, first I consulted the leadership.
Right.
And they concur that for them, they're facing this matter legally. And that's why they have a robust...
What do they think of your motion, is the question.
Yeah, I'm coming to. Of course, what they think of my motion. One, they have a robust legal team. They're going to face that legal. But when it comes to the purpose of our motion, the purpose of our motion and our bill is bigger than William Ruto, it's bigger than Uhuru Kenyatta, it's bigger than Aden Duale. It's about Kenya, it's about the future of Kenya, it's about the relationship between ICC as an international court and our country. And I want people to look at it from that point of view.
You haven't answered my question. What did they say about your motion?
They have sanctioned my motion.
Thank you.
Okay, now may I put it to you?
Yes.
May I put it to you that the likelihood of this motion undermining their own case is very high? Because, as you said, they're following the legal process, but you are addressing their case politically. And you said clearly that you're addressing the ICC politically. So let's assume the judges are sitting and listening to you in Nairobi. These guys are coming before them. They say they have activated other mechanisms to intimidate the court. The Kenyan parliament is sitting to intimidate us. Yeah. They are mobilizing the international community, the regional powers, Museveni, Uganda, everywhere. They try and marshal forces against ICC. Don't you think if that were the perception, it would actually harm their own defense?
I think, David, you are getting it wrong. And David, the case before ICC, the judges of the ICC itself, which we are signing to the Rome Statute, is inferior to the Kenyan nation. It's inferior to the constitution of the Kenyan people. Why do I say so? What I'm addressing...
Don't we have duality in the legal system?
What?
Don't we have duality in the legal system?
Now let me first answer his question. Because what I'm addressing...
It's just that you seem to be saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, Davis, what I'm addressing is a fundamental Kenyan issue. What I'm amending is an international act which has been domesticated in our constitution. So the judges, from where they sit, they're dealing with a case. They're dealing with the specific witnesses, just like the way they're dealing with any other case. And I think the element of intimidating judges, when we had, for example, when we had the Supreme Court on the verdict of the elections, people were demonstrating outside the Supreme Court. Am I right?
Yes.
That didn't intimidate, in my opinion, the judges. And if a judge can't be intimidated, whether he sits in the ICC or he sits in Kenyan courts, so the element of intimidation, the element of putting this case in jeopardy, I don't think it arises from where I sit.
100 members of parliament are going to join Ruto next week to The Hague. We are talking about sycophancy and
yes,
what is the purpose of spending
it's
that
not about sycophancy. I mean, Mutegi, today if you are arraigned before Nairobi court, your wife, your kids, your family, your relatives, your friends will come to court.
Yeah, but not my village.
No. Let me finish. Your friends, even your village will come. What is happening that is that the members of parliament, one are friends of the deputy president or the president. Yeah. They are their constituencies politically. They are members of their coalition. So there's nothing morally and legally wrong for one to go and participate.
Okay.
For the question, there are about 84 members of parliament who registered with my office by yesterday, and we want them to arrange that they go in batches of 30. They go the first week 30, second week 30, the third week 30.
And of course, they're looking after their own
and
costs.
They are paying for the air tickets. They are booking their hotels, and I can tell you, parliament is not paying. Government is not paying, the county governments are not paying, the CDF is not paying.
How do we verify that? Because you've said that before, several MPs have said that, but the trust is so low.
You verify,
that, yes.
You verify, you can check their tickets, where they got it from, you can follow them to The Hague and see them paying for their hotels from their pockets.
Okay.
I mean, for us, from where we sit, we want to make sure the parliament resource is not used, and that can be verified. We have an auditor general, we have oversight committees. Government must have a vote for this, which I don't think they have. So members of parliament are going. There's nothing wrong. If today Mutegi is in court, I'll go and join.
Okay,
you.
I'm under pressure to go for a break. We're actually running out of time. You're watching Cheche, the program where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV with Aden Duale, the Honorable MP for Garissa Town and the leader of the majority in the National Assembly. We'll be back after the break.